we picture a terrible boss, we see someone asleep at their desk.
Right, yeah.
But a set of devotional notes for March 16, 2026, actually takes a 2,000-year-old text, specifically Matthew 23, and completely flips that idea on its head. So today's deep dive is looking at this ancient rebuke to understand a very, modern problem, which is toxic leadership.
Yeah, the notes introduce this workplace adage right away that just immediately catches your attention. It says, there is no boss more difficult than one who is incompetent yet hardworking.
Wait, okay, let's unpack that framework for a second. Because the source categorizes leaders by, competence and diligence.
Right.
Naturally, I'd assume the lazy, incompetent boss is the absolute worst one. Am I wrong there?
You'd think so, but counterintuitively, yes. If you look at a matrix of those traits, a competent, hardworking boss is obviously ideal.
Obviously, yeah.
And a competent but lazy boss might actually find, efficient shortcuts. And the lazy, incompetent boss, they just fail quietly. So the incompetent yet hardworking boss is actually the most dangerous because their energy just amplifies their incompetence.
Oh, wow. But how does that actually play out? Because, corporate culture usually praises the hustle above literally everything else.
Well, because they are hardworking, they don't just sit back. They actively enforce bad policies, create all this unnecessary red tape, and they just exhaust their team's energy on things that don't actually matter at all.
Oh, man.
Yeah, their blind zeal actively drags the entire organization down into failure with them.
It's like rowing a boat with incredible strength and stamina, but you're facing the completely wrong direction.
Exactly.
The harder you work, the further you get from the shore.
That is a great way to put it, and that is the exact dynamic the source text maps onto the ancient scribes and Pharisees. Jesus issues a really severe rebuke to these religious leaders because they are operating exactly like that dangerous boss.
Right, because the text mentions they would, quote, travel across sea and land to make a single proselyte, meaning like a new convert to their religion.
Right.
And that is a massive amount of physical effort.
It is immense effort, yeah. But it completely lacked true understanding and obedience. So the result of all that hard work was just making that convert, quote, twice as much a child of hell as themselves.
Wait, really? Twice as much?
Yeah. They were putting in maximum effort, but achieving a deeply destructive result. They were literally shutting the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces.
So if their hard work was actually causing harm, how do you even measure success in this kind of framework? Does the text give us a rubric for where that energy should actually go?
It does, mostly by highlighting their absurd misallocation of energy. The notes point out how meticulous these leaders were about measuring out a literal 10% tax on tiny, insignificant herbs. Like
the mint and dill and cumin.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're basically micromanaging the spice rack while the kitchen burns down.
Yes. That hyper-focus on superficial rules meant they completely neglected the weightier matters of the law, which it lists as justice and mercy and faithfulness.
Right.
And because they valued all the wrong things, the text actually labels them blind guides. They taught that swearing by the gold of the temple was binding, but swearing by the temple itself meant nothing.
Which is crazy because they valued the gift on the altar more than the altar that actually made the gift sacred in the first place.
Exactly, yeah.
They completely lost sight of the core purpose.
And that blindness to the core purpose culminates in this incredibly vivid image from the text. It says they are straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel.
Wow. That is such a great stress test for anyone in a position of influence today. It really asks you to look at your own daily output and ask, are these small things actually moving the needle, or is this just misguided zeal?
Right, because true leadership, especially in the context of God's kingdom as outlined here, it isn't about personal zeal or projecting some spiritual image on the outside.
Yeah, it's so much deeper than that.
It is. It is about faithful obedience to the core principles. A truly faithful leader rightly guides those entrusted to them with that justice, mercy, and faithfulness we mentioned.
Because activity does not always equal effectiveness.
Exactly. And unchecked activity can just make the way so much harder for everyone else.
So true. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today.
Yeah, think about this.
If your most exhausting, zealous efforts can actually become destructive without the right focus, what gnat are you currently obsessing over while completely ignoring the camel in the room?